So although the OnePlus 15 is on the horizon, the OnePlus 13 has been one of the best buys on Android all of this year. But can Google even get close with the Pixel 10 Pro XL? Well, here's everything you need to know. Before then though, if you want more Pixel content like this, from comparisons to absolutely anything and everything else, just do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. Cheers. So a few people might be asking, why is there a point in even comparing the Pixel 10 Pro XL and the OnePlus 13? Because the latter can sometimes be snapped up for even around the same price as a base model Pixel 10. Well, that puts it in a league of its own in terms of price to performance, and it will be unfair to gloss over that here in this video. So both the Pixel 10 Pro XL and the OnePlus 13 do come with massive 6.8-inch displays, super thin bezels, well, fairly thin bezels, so neither phone feels particularly compact. The Pixel is a touch heavier, which I do think does make it feel a little bit denser in the hand as well. Credit where it's due, the Pixel feels especially well crafted, as does the OnePlus 13. It is a toss-up though as to which display you will prefer, as the OnePlus 13 I think has a tiny little bit of a downside here with edge display curves, while the Pixel 10 Pro XL keeps it completely flat, something that a lot of you out there say you like when we talk about it. My own OnePlus 13 has been taking a beating over the past year or so, but the pre-applied screen protector has kept things underneath super pristine, albeit to the detriment of that display experience. It is great that you still get this with this device, and with a lot of Chinese phones out there, you get pre-applied screen protectors. I do think getting a good replacement is going to be tougher for that phone because it isn't as widely available, so that might be something that is important to you. That's not to say it isn't a durable phone though, as the ceramic coating on that display should withstand most daily use and abuse, and it seems to have done that with my phone here. OnePlus also implements very high frequency PWM dimming up to 2160 Hz, which is especially easier on the eyes for people out there who are sensitive to things like flicker, while the Pixel tops out at 240 Hz by default, although through an accessibility mode that can be doubled to 480 Hz. But that said, it still doesn't match the display options with the OnePlus phone. This little accessibility gripe aside, I think content looks great across the board on either of these screens. The Pixel does have a marginally better colour reproduction level from what we can see, but nothing too drastic. You simply cannot go wrong for either phone if you are choosing based on the display. That said, for me, the in-display fingerprint scanner on the Pixel 10 Pro XL is a little bit more reliable and accurate in our testing versus the OnePlus 13, but that could be due to that pre-applied screen protector causing some minor slowdowns, as they are both ultrasonic scanners on both these phones. There is one thing to note though, the OnePlus 13 does go a little further with Pixel on the overall durability, as it were. It carries both IP68 and IP69 ratings, meaning it is resistant to dust, water immersion, and even high pressure water jets, while the Pixel only matches that standard IP68 rating. So if it's really important to you, that might not necessarily be a major selling point, but it is something to note. I also think the design of the OnePlus 13 feels a little bit less standout, as it were. The Pixel is starting to gain a little bit of traction with its own brand identity, with that camera bar which hasn't changed for a number of years, although it has changed shape. Accessory makers are also jumping on board and supporting this lineup a lot more readily, so if you want high-end accessories, plus the all-important MagSafe, aka Pixel Snap, without needing a case, it is an easy phone to recommend for that. That said, the vegan leather texture of the OnePlus 13 for me is sublime, one of the best I've felt on a phone, and while there are fewer colours to choose from, it has a gorgeous blue option of its own, which is a major standout from the crowd. The softer corners and the alert slider are also really big selling points that I think a lot of you out there shouldn't overlook if you are having to choose between these two phones. So Google's Pixel 10 Pro XL launched with Android 16 out of the box. It's even received another pretty substantial update since launching publicly. Plus, the company promises an industry-leading 7 years of OS and security updates. That makes it a clear winner for anyone looking to hold onto their phone long-term or who values software support. But that does come with a few minor caveats. The OnePlus 13 is still running Android 15, but it will hopefully be updated to Android 16 very, very soon. It's coming with 4 years of OS updates and 6 years of security patches, which is impressive in its own right. They're not quite as regular over here with regards to updates, but this is the best that OnePlus has ever offered on a phone. On the software experience front, OnePlus leans on Oxygen OS for additional customizations, including their own robust gaming mode, a dedicated shelf widget, UI tweaks that differentiate it from AOSP or Android on Pixel phones, and overall it is a really, really nice experience. Meanwhile, the Pixel has its own Material 3 Expressive update, and although visually these software updates aren't as far apart as they probably once were, there is a lighter feel and a little extra tacked on with the Google Pixel. I think Google leans heavily into Gemini and Gemini-powered functions like Magic Q, Pixel Screenshots, and AI within many of their default applications. In terms of Oxygen OS 15 and likely Oxygen OS 16, although we haven't seen that yet, they're very good alternate options of what Android should offer. There's so much that you can tweak and tune right out the box, from home screen icons to how the punch hole shows quick toggles and controls. There is a faint whiff of iOS here and there at times, but I think personally it is one of the better Android skins, especially as it has developed over the past couple of years, and it runs better than it ever has before. Sadly, this is an area where I think performance starts to differ quite drastically between the two devices. So let's get into Google Tensor G5 chip. This is 100% not a powerhouse. You've heard that from everybody else online, which is somewhat disappointing. You might not see that though when you're whizzing through applications. You will notice some things like photo processing or gaming just isn't anywhere near as good as it is on the OnePlus 13. I think if these things matter to you drastically, then a Pixel is probably never going to be for you at any point in time. That's not to say the Pixel 10 Pro XL is bad by any stretch of the imagination. It just doesn't quite hit the heights of the Snapdragon 8 Elite in practically every single level. Some optimization might help over time when Android updates do arrive on this phone, but the OnePlus 13 is a workhorse in almost all regards and among the most powerful phones on the market. So yes, if you want pure power, it's OnePlus 13 all the way. For photography though, I think both devices are a little more even. They're both well equipped with 50 megapixel main cameras, but their philosophies differ a little bit here. The Pixel 10 Pro XL favors natural color reproduction. In some cases, it actually diminishes that and cleaner low light results, while OnePlus has richer colors that still do lean into that natural side of tuning, with Hasselblad being tacked on. I think which you prefer is down to personal preference basically, and that seems to be the case across the board with practically every phone out there. There are lots of modes available out of the box now, and Google has improved those on the Pixel series. Maybe the OnePlus 13 edges it with some neat exclusive options, but nothing I think that drastically adds too much value to that camera system there. In the telephoto department though, Google definitely takes the lead with that dedicated 5x optical zoom lens and additional AI-driven ProRes zoom features, which provide more usable detail when zooming really far in. It's all powered by generative AI, so there is definitely an element of, did I really take this? But within a certain distance radius, say within 20 to 30 feet, I do think you can get exceptionally clean and sharp results that would otherwise be impossible without having improved camera hardware on board. So yeah, Google deserves a little bit of kudos for that. OnePlus with their 3x optical telephoto does capture decent shots, but it just doesn't offer as much flexibility at that long range. Both phones do have capable ultra-wide shooters that perform surprisingly well even in dim lighting conditions, delivering consistent wide-angle results. Video recording is also pretty competitive. OnePlus offers native 4K 60 with HDR and even 8K capture on board, while the Pixel tops out at 4K 60 HDR locally. It relies a little bit too heavily on video boost, and I'm hoping that'll change over the next few years as cloud processing is still used for 8K video, but it is impressive once you upload and download. It's also worth noting that the 6,000 mAh battery on the OnePlus 13 is quite a bit larger than the Pixel 10 Pro XL's 5,200 mAh internal cell, but it has a few extra distinct advantages, including faster charging out the box and a difference in the technology used for the battery itself. Technically, it has two silicon carbon cells in here, which make up that full capacity. This new tech means that over time, the battery should degrade less when charged at higher wattages, something which has kind of been the backbone of OnePlus phones for some time, and it doesn't stop here as well. So you get 80 watt wired charging in the US or 100 watt wired charging in the rest of the world. You don't get a charger in the box this year, which is disappointing, but you do get 50 watt wireless charging with the OnePlus 13, and it does mean you can get a full day of power in under 30 minutes, no matter which option you choose. The improved 45 watt wired charging of the Pixel 10 Pro XL can't quite match that impressive feat, but it's no longer the slowest of any top tier phone on the market. It does have 25 watt wireless charging with that Qi 2 support, and obviously the magnets mean you can put this practically on any existing Apple charging system, which is ultra convenient, and I do think it opens up a world of accessories that you can pair with your phone. I do think longevity can be subjective across the board, but depending on usage patterns, although this is not scientific, our testing has shown that the OnePlus 13 is among the longest lasting Android phones to us. Updates have improved efficiency there, so for many people, you could easily get 2 days of moderate usage patterns with the OnePlus 13. The Pixel 10 Pro XL I think is a little bit more of a mixed bag, is that it can last multiple days, but sometimes it can just drain faster than it probably ought to. However, a reliable companion, and it has had some post-release updates of its own which have helped battery life quite dramatically. So when we piece all of this information together, when we start to look at just what you want from a modern day smartphone, you're going to need to determine if performance is all important to you. There is definitely a growing gulf between the best of Google and the best of everybody else. The OnePlus 13 is a fine phone. In fact, in my personal opinion, when you factor in the pricing, it is simply the best value for money package out there, period. There are a few areas where we can start to draw a firm line in the sand though, where a buyer will actually notice a difference. Firstly, the camera on the Pixel, at least in my experience, is more reliable in more situations. It has that better physical zoom, higher resolution images across all of the lenses, and it handles anything you can throw at it. However, I do think the Hasselblad tuning on the OnePlus 13 is visually a distinct look. It's a key look that other phones really can't replicate right out of the box without some extra tuning and other external applications. In sheer performance, it's also worth noting that the OnePlus 13 runs rings around the Pixel 10 series and the Pixel 10 Pro XL. It has far greater battery longevity in our experience. The display has better OLED flicker control, which might be more comfortable for more people out there. I do think the soft curves of the frame could also be a big plus if you want a big phone but don't like flat sides and sharper corners as well. It definitely sounds, when you put that out there, that the Pixel doesn't stand a chance against this complete package. But in truth, there are lots of reasons to love Google's latest top-tier smartphone. The seamless software experience is a big plus, as is that camera quality as I alluded to a moment ago, even the build quality which has improved year over year. Plus, the display is another strong contender. With a Pixel phone, I think you're buying into that default Android experience for better or worse, and that's definitely no less pronounced this year than it ever has been. The downside is that there are some shortfalls that are harder to admit when we look at Google's MSRP or retail price of over $1,000 for this phone. OnePlus is simply offering more value for money at under that $900 retail price, but in truth, now that the price has dipped way below this already multiple times this year, it just becomes an incredible phone at a solid price that has made it really, really hard to beat throughout 2025, and it would be one of my tips for one of the best phones of the year, period. Let me know what you think though. If you had to choose between these two, which would you choose and why? I think personally, if I had $900 to spend and even these both phones were available at the same price, I probably would edge towards the OnePlus 13 just because there's a little bit more there under the hood that you can really sink your teeth into. Let me know what you think down in the comment sections below, but until next time, thanks for watching and I'll speak to you later.